The darkest things live in the light. My grandmother used to say that. Her invented idioms always seemed to carry greater weight upon reflection. I think Grandma had simply been philosophizing about the monstrosity of mankind. However, it just so happened that her words rang truer than she could have ever known. It was November 2022. For a year, I had been living in Tokyo with the love of my life, a wonderful man named Akio. It wasn't easy for a 20-something-year-old girl from Blackpool to adjust to life in a new country. But Akio is the kind of person who makes everything seem possible. You thought I was anxious when I first moved to Japan, but my sister is even more anxious than me. She's going to be twice as insufferable, I told him. Infinity can't be multiplied, Heidi, Akio teased. Whatever, I said, rolling my eyes. A fair warning about our brother, though. He's an acquired taste. I gathered that from video calls and lockdown. He chuckled. I shook my head. That was Sam on his best behavior. I have a horrible feeling that you'll see him at his worst when he comes to stay. He used to scare away my boyfriends when we were younger. Well, you're not kids anymore, Akio said, shrugging. And besides, it can't be any worse than the interrogation from your parents during their visit, can it? I smiled and planted a kiss on his cheek. I love your boundless optimism, Akio. My younger sister and older brother arrived at a late hour. An absolutely horrible flight, Sam grumbled, storming through the front door of Akio's high-rise flat. Well, 2 flights. He only moaned about it for 15 hours. Millie yawned, rubbing her squeaky eyeballs with the back of her hands. Hey, you're here now, I said, embracing my sister. It means a lot that you endured Sam. My sibling strolled over to the floor-to-ceiling windows in the lounge. There was a mesmerizing view of the capital's futuristic skyline. The dazzling lights of Tokyo formed a starry canvas against the backdrop of a desperately dark night. Glass-clad, man-made mountains towered before us, and my oafish of a brother could only think to ask one thing. Which floor is this? I thought you were living higher in the building. I groaned, but Akio simply grinned at me and brushed off my brother's prodding remark. They're the 22nd floor, Akio replied. So, I suppose you're both probably too tired to do anything tonight. After traveling so far, no way. Let's see the city, Sam exuberantly requested. I think my sister was far too exhausted for that, but she, like me, seemed surprised to see our brother so animated. I don't think either of us wanted to squander the opportunity to quash his surliness. She nodded her head, and Akio excitedly donned his favorite jacket. I want to take you to my favorite shop in the city, he said. Mukashi. Akio took us to the shop that I had visited with him on so many occasions, and operated out of a house belonging to an elderly lady named Mai. She was no entrepreneur. You couldn't even find her place of business online. It was a secret store known only to family and friends. I forget how Akio met her. Mai greeted us at 10 o'clock in the evening and led us into her home. Does she ever sleep? I wondered. What is this place? Sam asked. Mukashi, Mai answered. It means long ago. There are all sorts of weird and wonderful things in here, Akio said. Things of immense power, Mai qualified. Who's this creepy guy? Sam asked. He was pointing at a painting on the wall. A horrifying piece of art that I would skillfully swerve whenever Akio took me into my shop. It depicted a gangly man with a crown on his head. From his head to his toes, he was composed of shrunken, contorted, screaming people, reminiscent of those canvases that artists build from hundreds of miniature photographs. a nightmarish version of that. And the crown on his head was forged of human hearts. The blood of the organized organs trickled down the man's horrible head, drowning some of the miniature people that formed his face. Finally, the ruler of the dark and demented realm sat on a throne of bones. Many cultures had mentioned his name in hushed whispers. The entity is known in Japanese circles as the Day King. Mai explained. It's horrible and incredible, Millie shuddered. I nodded in agreement with my anxious sister. It was beautiful, but it was also unspeakably sickening. Neither Millie nor I were fans of the macabre. I suppose the same could be said of our brother, but unlike us, he neither feared nor revered the artwork. Why is it so poorly lit? Sam asked. He made a valid point. Everything else in the shop basked in the warm, homely glow of Mai's pleasant abode. But the painting lurked in the darkness. Still, I would have never complained about that. I was happy for it to be hidden. I didn't want to know what dire details the light might reveal. He cannot live in the dark. He draws power from the light, Mai explained. Anyway, I'm sorry, but it isn't for sale. I only keep it there for protection. Akio, I have some very exciting new antiques in stock. Would you like to take a look? He enthusiastically nodded, and he followed the old lady to the other side of the room. Meanwhile, Sam eagerly eyed the painting, refusing to move along. Come on, Millie urged. I can't squeeze past you in this cramped room. Keep moving. I just want to get a better look at it, Sam chuckled. Crap, I left my phone back at the apartment. Have you got Shira's Heidi? I begrudgingly handed my phone over to him, and I could sense my sister clenching her body nervously. Everything happened so quickly. I should have kept the phone to myself. The flash of the camera filled up Mai's claustrophobic room. What was that? The old lady screeched, running towards us. Relax, I was just taking a photo of. Mai proceeded to brutally berate Sam in Japanese. I had no idea what she said, but by judging by the pale look on Akio's face, it wasn't pleasant in the slightest. Who is this fool, Akio? Mai asked in English. Akio began. I'm so sorry, I interrupted tearily. He's my rude brother. Have you no respect, young man? The woman cried. At that moment, I realized that Mai wasn't angry, as I had initially presumed. She was frightened. Don't worry, Sam insisted. I'm not going to leak your painting online. The picture didn't even come out properly anyway. My brother showed the four of us his photograph. The camera flash had illuminated the frame. Yet horrifically, the Day King was nowhere to be seen. Sam was showing us a photo of a blank canvas. I looked at the actual painting and breathed a sigh of relief to see that the dreadful Day King was still sitting on his throne of bones. You've released it? Mai croakily cried. May the darkness save you. Okay, look, I'm sorry for upsetting you, but there's no need to say anything strange like that, Sam said, scowling. Oh, we'll leave now, Mai, Akio said, herding us out of the shop. I'm so sorry. You have a lovely home, Millie meekly added before we left the store. I scolded my older brother for the duration of the walk home. When we reached Akio's apartment building, Sam pulled me to one side. I'm sorry, Heidi, he said. I didn't come all this way to upset you. I wanted to meet Akio. I wanted to see your new life. We really miss you back home, you know. Yeah, you have a funny way of showing it, I huffed. How can I ever show my face in my shop again? Look, Sam trailed off. His eyes glazed over, transfixed by something behind me. I twisted my head. There was nothing on the other side of the road but a garish neon sign above a restaurant. "Are you scared of Japanese food or something?" I joked. "No, I thought that I saw something," Sam said, shaking his head and returning his gaze to me. "Anyway, sorry. Let's buzz Akio to let us inside. I have to apologize to him. I have given him the impression that I'm a grumpy man." "It'd be a very accurate impression," I replied, rolling my eyes. When we entered the flat, Sam adopted a demeanor that was much more relaxed, and that meant Millie and I could relax too. No more conducting damage control for our foot-and-mouth sibling. "I think I'm ready to hit the hay," Millie yawned. "You guys have only had to tolerate Sam for a few hours, and it's been a whole day for me," and chuckled. "Well, the spare bed's made up for you, Millie. Sam, it's the sofa for you." "That's what a dog deserves, I understand," Sam teased, sparking a round of laughter that seemed to diffuse the earlier tension of the evening. After we had all prepared ourselves for bed, I found myself reflecting on Sam's apology. My brother had always been a throbbing splinter beneath my skin, but he was still family. "Now I'm just gonna go clear the air with them," I said to Akio. "I won't be able to sleep until I do." "Yeah, of course. Also, Heidi," Akio started. I turned to face my smiling partner, who was tucked tightly beneath the duvet. "Yeah?" I asked. "Still not as painful as your parents' visit," he chortled. I threw a nearby pair of socks at him, and then I strode down the corridor to the lounge. I realized that Sam was still awake, as the wall of the hallway was basking in a warm orange glow from the living room. I rounded the corner and found my brother on the sofa, scrolling through his phone. "Hey," I said. "I just want to let you know that I'm really happy to see you. I missed you and Millie too." Sam smiled. "Hey, at least I'm not as bad as Mom and Dad, right? I've not begged you to come back to England yet." I grinned. "That's a low bar, but you're not wrong. Good night, Sam." "Night," my brother replied. "Wait, how do you turn off this lamp? The cord's really fiddly." I had been strolling out of the room, but I turned around to face Sam and answer his question. I screamed. Behind the sofa, hovering above my brother, was a tall man. I immediately realized it was the horrendous figure from the painting in the shop. He appeared far worse in the flesh. His body was composed of tiny humans who writhed and wriggled in agony. They were mutilated beyond recognition. What remained of their faces seemed to ceaselessly morph, as if the creature were built of so many victims that it could not reveal all of them at once. Sam had already been pulling the cord as I started to scream, but he figured out how to turn off the lamp on his own. We sat in the darkness for a split second, but he rapidly turned the lamp back on. "What the heck?" he asked. "Why did you scream? What's wrong?" The Day King had vanished. The darkness had extinguished it. "Turn the light off," I coldly commanded. Sam's eyes widened. We shared a knowing look, and I suddenly realized what he had seen beneath the neon sign outside of Akio's apartment. Soundlessly and rapidly, he turned off the lamp, plunging the lounge back into a secure blanket of darkness. Millie and Akio emerged from the rooms, but I ushered them back inside and told a white lie about Sam pulling a frightening prank. Everybody went back to bed. When Akio woke around 7 in the morning, he was startled to see me quivering and eyeing the ceiling with bloodshot pupils. Pulling an all-nighter wasn't exactly my choice, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen in the living room. There was no hallucination, I believed that. I didn't know whether Akio would believe that, though. "Are you okay? You look rough." "I love you too. I just couldn't sleep." Akio ate up the lie, but Sam cast jittery glances in my direction through breakfast. We had both seen the Day King. Neither of us needed to confirm that aloud. The terrible truth was etched on our fragile faces. Seemingly oblivious to my unsettled disposition, Akio happily assumed the role of our tour guide and encouraged us to go on a day out to his favorite park. Millie's enthusiasm overshadowed the solemnness of my brother and me. I was too distracted by my terrible thoughts to feign happiness. Every sound and movement haunted me. A wailing wind was pursuing us. It nipped and nibbled at the nape of my neck. I noticed Sam shuddering, but nobody else seemed to react to the weather. That was when I realized it wasn't a gust of wind. It was human wailing. I turned to face the source of the icy noise. As soon as I did, it stopped. Everything stopped. The people in the park had disappeared. Only Sam and I remained. "No," my brother cried. I finally absorbed my surroundings. It was an unusually sunny November afternoon, and shade could only be found beneath the scarce leaves of autumn cherry trees. In the heart of the empty park, which seemed to have slipped into a splintered moment of reality, was exactly what I had feared I would see. The Day King. The entity with bubbling skin took purposeful strides through the grassy clearing. Its horrifying flesh glistened in the midday sun, driven by a primal instinct to survive. I'd pointed to the cherry trees before I even realized that I was doing so. "Mai said that he can't live in the dark," I screeched. "Come on." The Day King managed to glide towards us with such sinister speed, but we made it to the shade of the cherry trees in time. The horrifying entity stood at the edge of the shaded grass and watched. "Now what?" Sam asked. "How will we ever leave this place?" As I struggled to think of an answer, Sam's eyes suddenly rolled backwards, concealing his pupils. His head rolled to the side, as did that of the Day King. I cried in helpless horror, and the creature's wailing sound returned. The small bodies of human victims squirmed sickeningly as the Day King stared deeply into Sam's soul. And then Sam's eyes returned to normal, and he looked back at me with a soothing smile. "We spoke," he said. "The fault is entirely mine." Before I could ask what he meant, I gasped at the sight of my brother strolling towards the sunlight. "What are you doing?" I screamed. My body, whether immobilized by fear or some supernatural force, was unable to reach out for Sam and restrain him. I simply watched as he serenely entered the sunlight and accepted the Day King's cold embrace. It was an indescribably horrific spectacle, which I could not scrub from my memories. The Day King curled his squirming arms around Sam and effortlessly enveloped his body. My brother screamed with frightening ferocity. His flesh melted and merged with the bodies of the other eternally tortured victims that composed the Day King. Suddenly the sun blinded me. When the glare had subsided, the sound and life of the world had returned. Akio and Millie came running over to me. They found me sitting in the grass beneath the shade of the cherry tree. Onlookers were concerned by my cry for a second, but they quickly went about their days. "What's wrong, Heidi?" Akio asked. "We lost you for a second. How did you get all the way over here so quickly?" "Where's Sam?" I breathlessly blubbered. Millie looked around, frowning. Neither she nor Akio had an answer for my question. Sam was never found, and how could I tell anybody that the Day King had added him to his barbarous collection? And that was confirmed when May allowed us back into her shop. Akio still doesn't know what I saw, and I don't want him to think that I'm crazy. But Mai knew. I could see it in her eyes, and she saw me looking at the painting. She saw me shudder at the sight of Sam's tattooed and limbless torso, which formed the left tip of the Day King's sinister smile. I think the lady had dimmed the light since the last time we had been in her store. After all, the darkest things live in the light.